Hello and welcome, everyone. This episode, I have somebody very special. The beautiful Crista Marie Miller is with me today. And today we're doing something a little bit different and exciting. We are including astrology and looking at it through the lens of human design and how it shows up for our type and certain similarities in our charts. So, Krista is a 5-1 emotional manifestor. She is an intuitive voice channeler of Mary Magdalene, which she's amazing. You definitely need to check her out and see how she communicates, the wisdom that comes from her. I mean, it's very profound. And she is also a consciousness coach. Um, Krista, I would love to invite you to share a little bit about your journey being a 5-1 emotional manifestor, when you found human design, who you were before that, and how it's really unfolded for you.
Yeah, so I started channeling when I was 7 years old, and that was in the year 1987. And Magdalene came to me and said that there are 8 modalities available to the human population again that was not available 2,000 years ago. And she told me what they were and what the types were. And so I kind of wrote them down in my journal. And, I was 7, I didn't really know. And so I kind of put it away. And um, a couple of years ago, I started writing my autobiography, and I started pulling out all of my journals. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And everything started connecting. And one of the modalities is human design. And I love the synchronicity fact that I channeled it in 1987, and Ra Uruhu channeled it
Oh
in
my gosh.
1987. So I love that synchronicity. There are 3 other modalities that I use that all came onto the existence consciousness in 1987. So it's fascinating to me that that was a big year of shift and change for a lot of people. And so that was kind of just like my aha confirmation that I'm on the right path. And this is, so I synthesize all these modalities. And 2 of them are my own. They're sovereignty pillars and the 12 consciousness bodies. And Magdalene likes to talk about topics that, I mean, she pushed the norm. I believe she was a heretic investigator too herself, because anything that that was the social norm at the time, she pushed against, and she's still doing that through my channelings. I just did a channeling on twin flames because that's a hot topic right now, and she has a completely different view on it than a
That
lot
was
of people.
fascinating. That was great to
And so
watch.
it's just it's I like, pushing the limits and making people uncomfortable. It took me a long time to allow myself to be uncomfortable, and to make myself uncomfortable with making people uncomfortable with my energy. When I decided to start doing this work publicly in 2018, I should back up a little. When I was 16 years old, Louise Hay came into my life, who started Hay House, and she really saw me and she took me under her wing and really helped me blossom into my gifts. So I would channel for her, Wayne Dyer, Michael Beckwith, all these amazing beings, and who I didn't know who they were because I was 16. And so I ended up working with her from ages of 16 to 24 with Hay House. But she always wanted me to write, let, let's write, let's write a book. Let's get you out there. Let's get you out there. And I was always so afraid. I was like, no, no, no. And plus my parents were like, no, like they would not sign off on it. So it took me a while. Finally in 2018, when I decided to start doing this work publicly, I'm like, okay, well, what's going to be my niche? What's going to be so unique about me? And I'm like, I know, manifesting. That's super easy for me. Like, all you got to do is speak it properly and then go and do it. I'm like, I don't understand why people just can't go do this. It was at one of my first spiritual fairs that I was working at. A person was doing human design. I was pumped. I was so excited. I thought I had the golden egg, really, really, really. And and so I went and got a reading for her, and she completely crushed me. She's like, "You can't teach this," and I'm like, "What do you mean?" "Sure I can." And she's like, "No, there's only like 9% of you in the world who can do this." And I'm like, "Oh," she's like, "You could find the other 9% and teach them." And I'm like, "Oh." So like I completely got crushed. And I think it was all part of the process because also at the time I was channeling anything and everything as long as it's for a person's highest good. Because when I'm in session with people, I could see their whole complete spiritual team that includes crossed over loved ones, spirit guides, angels, ascended masters, light beings, archangels. As long as it came in for their highest good, I allowed it in. And my emotional authority was like, it was being drained a lot because it was just like I was constantly, and even in sometimes in sessions, I would bounce between entities until finally, about 2020, about then, I just dedicated my complete life to Magdalene. I'm like, you know what? She has a message to share. She's been patient with me. She's been with me. She taught me my two main modalities that I teach. It's time. So that's when I committed to her and really started to learn how to utilize my emotional authority, ride that emotional waves, understand the highs and lows, and all utilizing it as, a 5-1 or heretical investigator.
Wow. I feel the impact of your aura. I'm just like, ew, wow. And I know the viewers are gonna feel it. Like, do you guys feel this? Like, powerful, powerful aligned manifester. Holy cow. Thank you so much for sharing. But like you said, the manifester, it's like, oh yeah, how you speak correctly, then take action. That's how you do it. But the other 91% of the population is like, what? We can't do that. So it's so important that the manifestors know that this is them. They have this gift, and then also they have their own strategy along the way, and then certain nuances that make them who they are. The 5-1 is the teacher, it's the heretic. And then the one is all about, being the detailed authority. And you can feel that for Krista. She is such a detailed authority in what she is here to teach. Super, super powerful. So let's get started and take a look at your chart. So as you can see right here on the left side, we have Krista's human design chart. And then on the right side, we have her astrology placements, her personality side. So we have astrology both in the design and the personality, but for primary purposes for this session, we're just going to look on the personality side because that's what constitutes our basic astrology wheelhouse. And the design side is important too, but we're more conscious of the personality side and how we learn through the typical astrology. So let's first get into Krista's sun sign. So Krista is a Virgo. She's a 5-1 emotional manifestor, like we said. So if you're a Virgo and a manifestor, this can show up with the impact you initiating, but then also being really like strategic in how you are informing, like really practical, really grounded, really service oriented, because the Virgo, um their archetype is the virgin and they are all about service. They're the healer. And so when somebody's sun sign is here and then they're a manifester, they are going to, their ego, their personality, they're really going to resonate with being that way with their manifestation and how they're manifesting. So, Krista, does that feel like that resonates with you being a Virgo and how you are a manifester too?
Totally. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. And then your sun sign is also in your first house. So the first house, that's really all about your sense of self. It's beginnings, it's how the world sees you. So this is really prominent. And then you also have, so you have one, two, three, four, five five placements in your first house. So you have a stellium in your first house. So your first house is very important for you this lifetime and how you're showing up. And then I also believe you have a Virgo stellium and a Scorpio stellium too. So these energies are really important for you in your chart and then how you are as a 5-1 emotional manifester. So the top three in our astrology is the sun, moon, and ascendant. And those are, what we see a lot of astrology, a lot of people talking about right now is just what are your top three? And, the sun is like how we are, our personality, when people get to know ourselves or us. And then the moon is more of our subconscious, our emotions, our inner world. And then our ascendant is all about like how the world sees us through our first impressions. And so we're going to look at these three placements. So the sun right here, Virgo in the first house. We're just going to look primarily at the astrology and the placements. And then we have Scorpio in her moon in the second house. And then the ascendant is Virgo again, and it shows up in the first house again. And then for the bonus content, we're going to look at relationships, and that's all about Venus. And so we'll get to that at the end. So, with Virgo, how do you feel like, because we're such complex beings, right? Like our astrology, our human design, like the astrology wheelhouse, it has like 12 plus placements. And so, somebody might say, oh, well, I'm a Virgo, or I'm a Scorpio, I'm this or that. But then you have all these other aspects and layers of yourself. So, for you being a Virgo, being a manifestor and having that emotional authority, like, but with you being a Scorpio moon, I saw these synchronicities of like, well, the Scorpio, it's all about the depth. It's all about the transformation. It's all about the inner world. And that is very much in alignment with the one line. It just digs and digs and digs. There's this vulnerability when it feels safe and in their safe foundation, who they're connecting with other people, and kind of like that pursuit to kind of come out and share and teach, and then feeling that pursuing as well to kind of pursue when you're getting that emotional authority, that it feeling good, it feeling safe, however that comes for you. um but let's look at a couple things, because I thought that was really interesting that you're a triple split, so you're getting information from the crown to the ajna, your emotional center to your throat, and then your spleen to your ego center. So you're getting all this information in these three different circuits, and then you have this, depth of emotion coming through. How does that play out for you?
Well, I want to talk and bring forward Virgo's a very mental sign. And
Yeah.
we have our mental signs like Gemini and Libra. And it's like there's these when you have a mental sign, but you have emotional authority, this is what I
Mm-hmm.
am really learning and expanding on right now is that I have to rely on my emotions. My brain goes and goes and goes and goes and goes and goes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and like you said, I'm pulling in from all these different things.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I'm learning to, okay, mind, you're in timeout, you're in probation, go sit in the corner. I have to pay attention to my emotions. And that literally took me 40 years to figure out how to do that. I'm just learning now of like how to, oh, my emotions are boss. Like I always kept my emotions way far away. I'm like, I want nothing to do with
Mm-hmm.
them
Mm-hmm.
because I felt them on such a deep personal level that it was like, oh my gosh, like nobody's going to get this. I mean, with 1222, it's like, oh, there's just
Right.
that. And so it's like, oh, it's all about honoring the emotions. And so I think that's what it's like with the Virgo, with the details and the mental and capacity and everything. It's like, okay, yeah, that's my son. And like I have, all these placements in the first house. That and if I could throw in another astrology little aspect for people to understand, like my Jupiter is also at 20 degrees. So Jupiter
Mm-hmm.
amplifies whatever it's next to. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
100 times fold of this.
Wow.
So I have all this mental big, big ideas, and then it's being
Mm.
squeezed through a tiny, tiny hole of my Scorpio moon. So
Wow.
it's these big energies that are going through a 5-degree Scorpio moon. So it's like there was a lot of, I mean, my book will be coming out soon about my my life and how I learned how to process all this information. It was a lot. So that's what I have to share about that.
Wow, thank you so much. Yeah, for sharing that. That's super powerful. And I love the fact that, yeah, your Jupiter is conjunct right on top, right next to your sun. So, but then that means that there's a lot of luck there as
Oh yeah.
well. So it's like balancing that. And then it's like, so the Scorpio comes out too through the emotions and it's in your second house. So that has to do with money and resources. And
Right.
it's like that's a very emotional experience. Do you see that you're having to make a lot of emotion, like a lot of decisions through that, and that
Yes.
your emotional authority comes out
Yeah.
through a lot of that external stimuli?
I would make impulse buys all the time, and they
Mm.
never, ever went the way I wanted them to. And so learning to wait at least a week before making any big major purchase decision is the wisest thing for me. Um,
I love that.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, the Scorpio in second house, it's really taught me patience and money.
Mhm.
And it also, kind of backs up that this path I'm on of channeling and doing this public channeling and teaching, it's just completely supported here in my chart. This is what I'm meant to be doing. This is how I'm supposed to shine. So it helps.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, and what really stood out to me is you have all your arrows are right.
correct.
So with the right arrows, that's like you you observe and you're just taking in everything and you don't know what you know until it's invited out and, and shared with other people. And
Yes.
so even though you're here to inform and initiate, the right arrows, it kind of puts you a little bit in the passenger of waiting sometimes because it really is for the other and the highest good, like you were saying.
Hmm.
And so that's a really powerful, you know, your variables for channeling as a manifester.
Right.
Yeah, really awesome. So let's go into, so we talked about your Scorpio moon, how it's intense. You have your emotional inner world balancing, all the mental stimulation for the Virgo. When you're manifesting or you're initiating, how do you balance out, your emotional authority, your depth, what's going on in your inner world, but then also like how your Virgo comes out and how it wants to, whether it's like service oriented, because I know for me, my Virgo is in Venus, so it's in my relationship. So it's very detailed of like structure and kind of ordering other people around if I'm invited and recognized as a projector. But as a manifester, do you see how this comes out maybe when people like have just getting to know you, your first impressions, like the details, how you're organized, how does that show up? And then, you know, where does the emotional capacity come in
Yeah.
with that
Okay.
process?
So I think it comes out in my readings. Anybody who's had a personal reading with me or listened to a channeling or teaching, I am all about the details. I get
Mhm.
into the nitty gritty, little details,
Mhm.
especially like when I'm doing evidential mediumship. It's like things come through that are so minute detail, like, oh, she wore bunny slippers in bed and she put them on at 8 o'clock every night. It's like detail.
Uh-huh.
So it helps me in that aspect. And then with I find it important to always connect your moon in with your environment, because that's how you are going to really regenerate yourself and
Mhm.
rejuvenate. And so hot bath or a spa, something in a cave like environment, so like hot
Mhm.
water with the Scorpio and cave, that's how I emotionally take care of myself. So that's how I see those playing out.
I love that. And to anybody who doesn't know what she's talking about with the caves, it's environment, it's part of our variables. And so we have the environment, we have our diet, how we view the world, and then our motivation. And I see a lot of line ones that are a theme in your chart. Like the one is the cave, your motivation is fear, that's another line one, and then your 5-1. So it's like it's really important that you feel that groundedness, that you feel that safety, that you feel that foundation, that however that looks for you, and how the moon is being tied into this, your emotional capacity and your authority. And it's so important. It's one of the um our type is the most important, but then our strategy is the second most important thing in our chart. And so it's like you're really honoring and leaning into your emotions, while you're probably really conditioned out of it most of your life, as most of us are conditioned out of our design.
Yes.
And so human design, it really just shows us our way back home into who we just naturally are and who our authentic self is. So I love everything that you're sharing. It's so good. You're so masterful at what you know about yourself and what's in alignment with you. And I really, really love that. And I know that people who have certain aspects in their chart are going to have really great tools now and tips of what they can do with these placements. So do you feel when you are initiating and informing that it is impacting other people? What happens when, let's say, because we all get like these challenges, right? Or these teachers where they'll kind of try to like bump us off of like our pathway if we're not really like following our strategy and our authority. So do you ever notice what happens if somebody is either trying to block your initiation or trying to, say, oh, you're this or that with your emotions? Like, what's your experience like as a manifestor when the not self maybe shows up?
Yeah. So at age 24, when I kind of stepped away from Hay House, I actually married a man who, fun fact, was a reflector, not in his power. And he completely shut me down, completely said, all the spiritual stuff stops, you're done. And for some reason, I agreed to that. And within 6 months of marriage, by the age of 25, I had gained 100 pounds, got fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, and rheumatoid arthritis. And I could barely move. And it was all because I was not being my manifestor. I was not honoring my strategy and authority. And my whole body rejected me. And I spent that time for 15 years in that state of understanding the dark side of the manifestor, because I would, I walk into a room and people kind of like skirt, like shy away. And for the longest time, I'm like, what's wrong with me? I'm like, I'm nice, I'm happy, I'm like so sweet. But people would always, like really, really try to either put me in my place, not tell me I can do, like my parents for the longest time. No, you can't do this. No, you can't be a channel. No, you can't do the spiritual stuff. It's like, no, 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 no. And then 15 years of a man saying no spirit whatsoever. So it was detrimental in my health. But luckily, when I had my children, I finally started coming out of that fog and saying, I want my children to know who I am. And stepping into my passion and my power and really embodying my teaching on the sovereignty pillars, ended up ending my marriage. So what is meant for us at one time is not always what is meant for us for eternity. So I really learned my lessons in, especially dealing with a reflector not in their power. Like I fully understand the power dynamic behind that, and and what it can do to a manifestor. So
Wow. Wow. I'm just having so many ahas right now. So reflectors, they're only 1% of the population, but they can either, if they're awake, they can awaken 100 generators around them. But if they're asleep, they can keep 100 generators asleep around them. That's how impactful and intense their aura is. And so the manifestor, they're really powerful. They're really impactful. And then, but with what a sleep reflector does, they're like Teflon. So they're going to reflect back all the things that are, if they're conditioned, the conditioning with the reflector is they think they're all defined. So if they think they're all defined and that's their shadow, they're going to reflect all the not self back to somebody. And so with the manifestor, that's so painful because then they are conditioned out of their informant, out of their initiation. And then what happens is it's like all that stuck energy is just in the body then
Right.
and stuck. And it's like that manifestation, that flow is blocked. And so I'm so happy that you went through such a powerful transformation initiation because your impact is your I mean, it's just going to inspire so many people, especially people who want to manifest and want to speak their truth and want to be their true selves and see like, hey, what I went through, the body will tell you like something ain't right.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and just a thing for reflectors too. It's like it's really knowing themselves, understanding their aura and the influence they have on other people. And then if that's not for them, other people just knowing if they have reflectors in their life.
Right.
So really great, really, really great. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Um, so yeah, really great with how the Virgo has shown up, how the Scorpio shows up with their emotional authority. How does it work for you? You have the 1222, which is the channel of openness. That's how your emotional authority comes up. And I find this really interesting with people who have this and it's part of their authority of like when they want to communicate when they're in the mood. Do you notice that when you're making decisions, when you feel like you need to take action or not? Like, how does this work for you? Do you feel like you get a download, or do you really see this more as like my emotional authority comes out when I'm communicating?
It's both. So Magdalene talks about my sovereignty pillars kind of like give you like a base of like who you are, and one of them is called the security pillar of knowing like all aspects that include human design, astrology, numerology, know so much about yourself. And part of your security pillar is understanding what your base energy capacity is. This is what she calls it, base energy capacity. And it's knowing what your highest of high energy is and your lowest of low energy is, knowing what that range is. And so it's like you know when you're close to burnout, or when you're in a high moment where you can utilize that energy and information in order to act on it. And so it's one of your core values that you should know about yourself is what does it look like when you're starting to bottom out, and what does it look like when you are riding that high base energy capacity. And I attribute that all to my 1222 of, man, I can go deep, deep, dark, like into the depths of despair. But then I could also have these amazing, beautiful moments. If I have learned now with the 1222 is learning how to create something out of those depths. When I am just in the lowest mood, man, beautiful understanding and, visions and stuff come out of that. And it's like, as long as I do something with it, I can reach back up and get out of those depths. So it's all about creating, writing, art. I'm learning to find my singing voice again. There's just so many different avenues that we can take with this 1222 of learning to create when we're in those depths. And the depths are beautiful. I've also learned to find the tragic beauty in them of understanding and knowing what my emotions are. And I think that's part of my Scorpio moon is
Oh,
just
I
understanding
love
that.
that.
Yeah.
You just described the emotional wave beautifully with the melancholy and the highs and the lows and the creativity. And I really feel like you touch into your cognition with it, which is
Yeah.
the inner vision. And it's all about your inner world, it's all about your inner experience. And our cognition really helps us tap into our inner authority even more. So as we're going through our design, in our experiment, we'll get introduced into the four radical transformations. And I wasn't even going to go into this, but I kind of just like to flow with whatever the conversation is going. And I think this is really powerful. So when we go into the four radical transformations and we find our cognition, which is part of our diet, and it's up here. So you have, your diet's closed and then your tone is inner vision. So it's all about how you're digesting life through your inner world. And it really helps you tap into that emotional authority that you have. So that's super powerful. And it really is this beautiful, mystical experience with inner vision. It's all about the mythology of you and your purpose. And this highlights so beautifully with all your first house placements. So this is so good. This is amazing. I love this conversation so much.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going over some really great things about, being a 5-1, what that looks like with the teachings, with being emotional, with being a manifestor, with having these different astrology placements. And then we get to the ascendant, which is all about first impressions. And so that's in your first house as well. It's again mirroring with this Virgo energy. So when people meet you, it's like, okay, I'm getting, a sense of who you are from the bat, which I think is great because some people they might have a different ascendant and then people think, oh, I really think this about this person, but then, their sun is different and they're like, oh, this person is really kind of like this. So I feel like with you being in a 5, it kind of helps, not being projected on too much.
True.
Is that correct?
I can actually emotionally intuitively feel when somebody is about to project onto me.
Uh-huh.
At least, and sometimes you could say even a couple of days, like I feel the energy building from the person. And so I know to nip it in the butt quickly and say, well, here
Oh,
are the tools. Here are the tools to help yourself. Like I say again and again and again, I am not your guru. I want to teach you
uh-huh.
and set you free. Like that's not
Uh-huh.
my position. I am just meant here to inform and to initiate and to really set you on your path. I mean, that's what my passion is, to help people find their soul purpose. And so, and I love that, my ascendant is with my son. It's like, you get what you get. Like,
Right.
no hiding here. And I'm like, I always show up as authentically as I possibly can. And there's no hoodwinking here. And that's what I really had to learn, because my ex-husband would always say, oh, you're cheating people, you're manipulating them, you're this, you're that. And then it's like finally I'm like, no, I'm not. No,
Mm-hmm.
like the more and more I learn about my human design, I'm like, no, this is, and astrology and a whole bunch of different other things, but it's like, oh, I am who I am and it's okay. And I authentically come across that way. So I'm grateful for that.
Beautiful. Yeah. And you know what's interesting? Even though Virgo and Scorpio are very different, I feel like they have some similarities as well. Like, because Virgos, even though they're really more on like the mental plane and the communication, they're really great at communicating and very service oriented. There's like a depth because it's like a mutable earth sign. So they take their time, but they're flexible in the adaptability with their mutable characteristics. And for some reason, like I always just kind of saw like a mysterious element to them as well, along with how the Scorpio is. And maybe it's because they're both feminine elements, earth and water. So that's just something that I've kind of noticed throughout the years with Virgo and Scorpio, because I thought when I first started learning astrology, I'm like, oh, they're completely different. But then getting to know people and seeing certain things, I'm like, oh, I can kind of see some similarities and how, these signs can be attracted to each other and share some friendship vibes of like, oh, well, I'm pretty deep, or because like the Scorpio, even though it's a water sign, it's really about transformation. And so it's like a Scorpio is going to go to hell and back with you. That's the only sign that's going to be able to do that. Whereas like a Virgo, it's really like, let me be a space for you to heal too, in service. And so I feel like there's like a beautiful dance with those two.
I think another aspect of it is, Scorpio, like when I'm working one-on-one with clients, the first thing I do make sure is they're not in victimhood and they're not in victim state, that they have their own empowerment. And
Mhm.
that I am one of my big teachings of Magdalene is that's a little controversial, but it's like nobody's energy can affect you without your permission.
Mhm.
And so I think that's part of my blessings and gifts that I give to my clients is like there's no victim for me here. Like let's give you the tools and empowerment to lead your own life.
I love that. And I think Scorpios, they really hold the space for that Scorpio energy. And then I keep noticing this that your moon is in the gate 28. So it's that you have that empowerment of being the victor of struggle. It's
Oh,
like you know what is worth the struggle. And you can teach that in relationships because it's in your fourth line. And so it's like we're not going into the victimhood here. We're going to transform and transmute this energy. So I just felt that was like really powerful as you were talking.
that's cool. I didn't know that. I learned something new.
Yeah. Yay. Okay, so let's get into the bonus of what I wanted to talk about, which is relationships and Venus. So, Venus is all about relationships, but values as well. And your Venus is in Leo. So, Leo, his home is the sun. He's like, I'm the star, I'm here. But he's also very courageous and leadership. It's all about let me lead you, let me be that example, let me protect. He's a lion. So it's all about that courage. And so being in Venus, it's really important that, and I saw that it was in your 11th house too. So the 11th house has to do with community, groups, friends, and humanity. So I think this is an amazing placement for your Venus because whoever you're with and in relationships, they get to see you shine in your purpose, in humanity, what you're doing in your community and your friends. And anybody who can't get on board, I love this saying for a manifester, if you can't get on board, get the F out of the way.
True. Could you have told myself that 20 years ago,
Right,
Krista?
exactly. And I know with who you're with now, he really honors that and is right there with you.
He is, and he's amazing. Yes,
Yeah.
I completely got lucked out. And one of the things that I love about my partner now is um, he saw me for who I was and my abilities, and I never even had to give him a reading or a channeling or anything like that. Because previous partners, after my divorce, was like, "Oh, I love you for what you can do for the community," which makes sense in my Leo. But what really set my partner apart now is that he never had to see me shine. He just knew,
Oh.
and he supported me full heartedly, and he lets me lead. He's very like he leads everywhere in his life,
Hmm.
but like in relationship wise, it's like he defers to me so much and lets me lead and lets me shine. So I adore him.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. You guys are so great together. I love that because with the manifester, one thing that I wanted to talk on that I think is really important, and everybody is entitled to their own opinion. Take what resonates with you, leave what doesn't. But we see a lot of people talking about masculine, feminine energy, right? And so it's like if you're a man who's masculine, you're supposed to lead. Well, in human design, if you're a woman and a manifester, you're supposed to initiate and lead, and that's correct for them. And so if they don't know this or they're questioning, well, I'm a manifester, how does this work? It's like always checking in with your inner authority, seeing what's true for you, knowing yourself, and how grateful can't like is this time we're in without we have all this information now to know who we really are. I mean, how cool is that? And so with Krista, it's like I love what you said that her man right now, he leads himself, he leads in his life, and then he knows that he gets to go to her as well, and that she's leading and she's initiating and she's informing, and that is super powerful and that works for them, and they get to be in their themes, which is huge. It's so important when we're in alignment with our design. And I love the fact that, your gate 31 is all about that leadership. It's the gate of I have this gate. I should know it. I'm blanking right now, but it's part of the alpha channel. And so it really is, it's invited, but at the same time, it's when it's recognized, it knows how to order people, it knows how to lead. And so that's beautiful with, it being in the line 5, you having that Leo placement, and then in your 11th house.
Oh, yeah.
So this was so fun to go over with you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Did you have any final questions, thoughts, or anything that you wanted to share or go over?
Just for all my manifestors out there, like, it's really important who you surround yourself with and who will support you and allow you to be you and allow you to be the leader and doesn't shrink away from you, like allows you to be in your full empowerment, and finding those people that you can really rely on is crucial.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing that. And if anybody wants to get in contact with Crista, where can they find you? And we'll be sure to put that link in the description as well if you want to share that too right now.
Sure. It's just Crista Marie Miller. Come on. .com and Crista Marie Miller across all platforms. It's really easy. It's just my name, and my name is Crista, no H. I have Christ energy running through me, but I am my own individual.
Love it. Thank you so much. We'll put that that link in the description of this video. And for anybody else who is interested in knowing more about who they are and their human design, want to learn more about their astrology and incorporating it with their design as well, you can reach out to me. You can go to my website and I'll provide all that information in the description of this video. And until next time, bye everyone.